Hey, everybody. Good morning or good afternoon. I'm Jessica. Oh, good morning, lovely. I'm Jessica Rose. I'm going to be your very laid back instructor today. And for those of you who are just joining us off the stream, that's super chill. What we're doing is we're actually just finishing up free web development bootcamp built around Class Central's curriculum. So this is our last proper lesson, isn't it? How very scary, how very exciting. So today we're going to be talking about CSS animation, which sounds really, really challenging. And when you're working on it out in the out in the wild, oof, makes it sound very, very competitive and scary out there. But when you're working it in production environments, that sounds all right. Um, it can be, can't it? Anything with CSS has the opportunity to be like really challenging and really finicky. But what we're going to do today is a little tiny tutorial. A tutorial can't hurt us. A tutorial probably can't hurt us. It's going to be really, really chill, I think. So today is our very last proper, we're going to come all the way to the bottom. All of this is done. And don't forget, if you haven't finished all of this, that's not a problem. That's not a big deal. This is so much work for 6 weeks. And here's what we're going to do. I think this is going to be pretty challenging. Usually I'm very cruel and I abandon you just as it starts getting hard. And today I'm going to go ahead and stick with you through the hard part because this is a nice short one. But don't worry if you're not finished. It's not a big deal. Everything is medium okay. Like, I really, really like programming because, and I'm going to make programming sound easier than it is. This is just word puzzles. This can't hurt us. There's big, scary things out in the world. And what we're doing is, I'm not even talking about this as I go because we're building out the structure of our HTML page, which we've done a bunch of times before, huh? Inside our head, we're going to want our meta. Our care set's going to be, I'm going to type it correctly this time. It's UTF-8. Oh, is it always going to be UTF-8? I say almost always. Viewport. Hello. Oh, 'cause some of you, it's the afternoon where some of you are. Yeah. Anyway, everything's going to be super chill. The big thing I want to really say is if you haven't finished all these, and especially if you haven't finished your projects, that's not a huge deal. Yeah? So, viewport, and then we're going to set the size of our content. That's going to be super chill. The viewport. Oh, the name is set to viewport. Y'all, look at me. Absolutely unnecessary. So the name of what we're putting in here is viewport. You love how I was like, well, we've done this a bunch of times, so I'm not going to look at it being rubbish. And then the content on our page is going to be set. And I'm going to copy and paste this because I always type it wrong. Is the width is going to be set to the width of the device your user is using. Cool. And the initial scale, sometimes it wants us to say 1.0. Acharaf, look at you. Sometimes people say, what's an old-fashioned thing to say is teacher's pet, isn't it? But after my own heart, where you're like, Jess always messes this up. I'm going to go and get it for her. You're far too merciful than I deserve. I don't know. Like, people deserve a little bit of mercy, don't they? A little bit of help. The world is hard. Oh gosh, what should our title be? Ferris wheel animation? That feels all right. And what if we got it? Oh gosh, let's link to our styles. Oh, it's told us what it wants our title to be. We'll probably have a little test to check. And then we're going to link type equals name equals Ref equals. Oh gosh, y'all are coming from all over the place. Oh, we've got Spain, legends dialing in from Somalia. Delightful. Ramon, go back to bed. I know. Oh gosh, so we've got a question about how we've got pop-up chat coming from, because some of you are watching on YouTube and some of you are watching on Twitch. We use a service called StreamYard behind the scenes. Is the type text CSS? And is the what? Jess, are you forgetting this incredibly basic thing? I am forgetting this incredibly basic thing. It's been a long morning. Yeah. So rel is style sheet. Everything is fine. Type. What am I even doing here? Oh, everything is fine. Well, I mean, everything's as easy as it's going to get. And here we're linking to styles.css. And that may or may not work. Meta. But do you want it to be capitalized? Is that your problem? I mean, if you... And you want me to have the self-closing in the link? I don't think you strictly need that trailing slash in your link, but Free Code Camp seems to really want it. And when the boss tells me to do something, I'm all right with doing it. We're going to add a div. And you might say, oh, Jess, we're going to do all of this buildup like we always do. We're really, really not. So we're just going to do a little tiny bit of building out the structure today. And we're going to jump right into styling it. And then we're going to jump into doing the animation. I promise that we're going to get to do that part together. It's going to be super chill. So we've got our div, and here's our div with a class of wheel. All right, so this is probably going to be the parent element. Inside our div, this. Okay, so we need 6 spans set to line. We could do that. Class of line. And you say, no, I want to do the animation. We're going to do the animation. We're just going to build out this little bitty bit of structure first. Because you all aren't. You all are very, very good developers, very good learners. I'm very lazy. So I'm going to just build this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And let's go ahead and do the divs with a class of, oh heck, of cabin. I want 6 of these as well. And this is going to be super chill, isn't it? Grab you. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I don't need to select the line to copy it. So good morning. We've got that. So we've got our parent element, which is our overall wheel. We've got 6 spans for line, and we've got 6 divs for cabins. We can do this. All right, we're going to go right in. We're doing the very exciting CSS stuff, right? So we're going to set a border, which is 2 pixels, solid black. Okay. So 2 pixels solid black, and we're just seeing this thick black line. Can anybody tell me why our wheel, which when we saw the preview was very wheely, wasn't it? Why do we just have a thick black line here? Yeah, I'm the worst where I'm like, well, I think I know, but I'm going to insist one of you tell me. And while one of you tell me why our border is just a thick black line, I'm going to do the border radius. We're going to set that to 50%. Oh. That's me being rubbish. And then margin left is going to be set to 50 pixels. Why have we just got a black blob here? I think you'll probably know what's going on before we start. So we've created our wheel. Yeah, the invisible element wheels aren't that cool, Carlos points out. Um, but right now, we've drawn a border around an element that doesn't really have a size. So there's no height and width, or, yeah, there's nothing much here, but we've drawn a border around. We've drawn a round border around something that doesn't really have any size at all. Hey! So remember, the bootcamp is always free. You couldn't pay us if you wanted to. I hope you don't want to. But if you have the money and if you feel like it, that's a big thing. If you don't have the money, don't you dare spend money you don't have. Class Central are the people who make the curriculum we're working from, and they're a nonprofit. I promise I donate on my other account, but it's just really solid to donate to them. So the wheel, we're going to give it some of that width and dimension we need. So we're going to set position. I think, what is this? Set the position to absolute. You say, Jess, are you ever going to get better at typing absolute? And I refuse. We're going to set our height to 55. View width. Okay. 55 of the view width. Oh, we've got our circle. So, but when we set position absolute, we say, hey, stop messing about. We want to exclude you from the usual flow of this document and pin you down on the page where you go. Okay, cool. Oh, so Atrap asks, why are we setting the height to 55% of the view width? I think that's a really good one. I think it's so that when I pull this in different directions, it's not going to warp in a weird way. Oh, and Sasha, I love this question. Sasha's like, hey, come on. Why the heck is this a circle? It's a really good, because we've said all of these are rectangles. Do you remember using the border radius element before? Border radius element is how squished into a circle things are. 20%, a little bit squished into a circle. 40%, mostly squished into a circle. 50%, done squished into a circle. Very technical, isn't it? Squished. Oh, have I spelled position or absolute wrong? Absolute, wasn't it? Yeah. Oh, Ferris, you're just like, Jess, come on. I know you're not wasting our time with this. So we're going to set our, so we talked about the responsiveness that we've used this view width as a measurement unit to keep it wobbly, unwobbly. Now we're going to set our maximum height. So, okay, well, we respect that you can change the size of this by changing the size of your viewport. And one thing we want to do here is make sure it doesn't get too big. Maybe we've got other stuff on the page. Maybe we just have an artistic vision. But we're going to say, well, don't make this bigger than 500 pixels, please. I've got other things going on here. And one thing I really like about this lesson is we've only got 24 of these, and we're hustling right through them. So oh, heck. There we are. We've drawn our circle. Okay, let's do those line spans. Background color. We've set that to black. Nothing yet. Width. I'm going to set you to 50% of your parent. Okay. And still nothing. Why still nothing? I think because we've got a background color. We've got width. We've got no height at all yet. We've got our height. Let's set that to 2 pixels and see. Still nothing. Oh. Carlos is asking, well, why do we fix the 2 dimensions width and height? Are you asking about the previous step? And that's true. So we've set both the width and height to get no larger than 500 pixels. If I set the width to get no longer than 500 pixels but didn't set the height, I could probably pull it into a weird oval, yeah? This says this works, but I don't see a dang fool thing. Let's explore why. So let's set the line. So I'm going to copy and paste absolute so I don't waste y'all's time again. Ooh, and as soon as we set the position to absolute, we see this line can pop in. All right, cool. So I'm not sure why CSS elements are usually girls in my head. I was going to say, oh, so she was just hiding, just sort of floating. And here she is. We just set the, and let's go ahead. So we've set 6 different selectors. Why are we only seeing one? Yeah. Oh, that's a fun question. It's a fun sort of CSS puzzle. I'm going to set the left is going to be set to 50%. Ooh, automatically float over to the left. I'm going to set the top. We're going to push down from the top by 50%. Ooh. When we push down from the top, that moves down. Yeah. So think about these positionings as that's the direction you're pushing from. It feels weird to say, oh, top 50% and see it go down. Yeah, Carlos, I'm reasonably sure you might be right. Ooh, Florian. Ooh, this gets philosophical fast. So, well, they're all the same line. I think we're all saying the same thing. So Sasha's saying they're all sitting on top of each other. And I like that Florian said the same thing in a very philosophical way to be like, whoa, at the moment, if they're all on top, are they the same line? And Carlos was like, this is an inline element. They're all sitting on. So right now we've got them stacked. So transform origin, we haven't looked at it all yet, but we're not going to freak out. I am going to sit here and be lazy until one of you tells me, what do we do when we find a brand new property that we've never used before? Hypothetically, I've never ever seen, I mean, even though I do these lessons before I meet with you all. Let's say I've never ever seen transform origin before. What do I do? Jess, are you asking us a question so you can grab some water? Yeah. So, yeah, we've got a couple different things we can do, but I think the first thing is that, okay, we know we need to use transform origin. It doesn't have to be MDN, but definitely look it up. And MDN is, and Florence, like MDN, am I a bit of a one-trick pony where I've just given you all MDN so many times? I think their documentation's quite good, though. Fabulous. Okay, so this tells us so we're just going to write transform hyphen origin, just, and that's going to give us the turning point that our transformation's applied around. That's going to give us sort of, if we're thinking of, and we should think of, if we're thinking of this animation as a piece of paper that's spinning around on our imaginary page, the transform origin is the place where we put the pin for it to spin on. Does that make sense? I don't think it does in my head. So we're going to set the transform origin, and that's the point around which a CSS transformation is applied. Yeah. So if we're doing rotate, and that's what we're going to do, transform origin is sort of the, oh gosh, what is that called? On the axle upon which this wheel is. So we're going to give our line selector a transform origin property of 0, 0. I bet we're going to want to move that. If we put it at 0, 0, it says it's going to be the top left corner of the element. That doesn't feel like what we don't want this to spin on the top left, do we? Transform. What did I say? Origin. Origin. No, we have 0% and 0%. I'm not forgetting that at the end. We check the code. We've got that green stripe, which is an indicator that, at least conceptually, everything's fine. So we're going to create a selector to target our second line element. Ooh. Oh, so we only want our second line element. How can I target the second child? Was there a pseudo class for second child? You all are going to have to help me because I genuinely forgot this. Oomph child selector. That's probably what we want. Yeah. Okay. Achraf, you're well ahead of me. You're like, look, I've already done this. Everybody's like nth of type. Yeah. So line, we only need one of those. Second of nth of type. And then 2. We think that one works. I don't doubt you at all. And just to give the credit, Achraf and Ghazi and Sasha were all just like, come on, you know this. I'm just going to check. Dot line, nth of type 2. Okay, perfect. So that's not an error. It says, yeah. You've got that okay. Now do the rest of it. And now we're going to, now we're going to transform, rotate, and then we're going to, and rotate's a function, isn't it? So we've got these little smooth braces where we're passing it in. 60 degrees. Oh, and fabulous, because we talked about how one of the problems we have right now is that all of our little lines are sitting on top of each other. I'm going to bet money that we're going to use this exact same syntax in the next one. So do it for third and fourth and fifth and sixth, adding 60 degrees each time. So let's cheat. Jess, are you telling me it's okay to cheat? I am telling you it's okay to cheat. So copy and paste that. We're going to say we're going to target the third one of these. I'm going to rotate this 120 degrees. A little bit wonky in the middle, but, and obviously if you're much better at CSS than I am, which is going to be 24, which is going to be almost all of you, you're going to say, well, it's unacceptable that these are a little bit wonky in the middle. But if you're very laid back, good for you. And maybe the fourth is, then we've got the fifth is 240. And the last one is going to be 300, isn't it? If you're a little bit laid back like me, what a fantastic way to live. Good for you. 26, that's not going to be it. But if you're a little bit laid back, you say, that's not perfect in the center. I could either spend hours and hours fighting with it, or I could finish the project and then fight at the end. I'm a big fan of saving all our fights to the end. And you know what? Free Code Camp actually says, that's fine. It's fine like this. Let's go on. Let's create a cabin selector. So let's draw our cabins. I'm going to set our background color. We're going to set this to red. The width is going to be, 20% of what? And the height is going to be 20%. Oh, heck. This is technically correct, right? We do indeed have a red thing, but doesn't feel like this is what we want, is it? Let's go ahead and pin this down. And because I always misspell absolute, I should really set up a keyboard shortcut. Pin that down, position absolute. Okay, that looks a bit more like a cabin. And now we're going to set a border of 2 pixels and solid. By default, that's black, isn't it? We usually specify black, but here, that's the default. Anik is absolutely right. When we've never seen an element before, we'll just go and look it up in an idea. You all are so patient. I'm just allergic to the world. Set the cabin to have a transform origin property of 50% and 0. And this is going to be those points that they're stuck at. Remember? These are going to be the little pins that they animate around. So we're going to transform origin. What are we going to set this to? To 50% and 0%. Okay. That's still doing okay. And look how we're coming up on like a third of the almost halfway done. This is going nice and fast. We're gonna hit the harder stuff in a second, I bet. Oh, we've just done this, haven't we? So, and this was lovely because Gazi, sorry, my love, Gazi and Sasha and Ajraf were all just like, hey, we haven't forgotten the syntax for this. So we're using nth of type, very chill. And we're going to say 1. Just see if that's okay with the way we wanted to do it. So right, and it looks like we're going to be moving these around, isn't it? Minus 8.5%. Oh gosh, look at you. And then we're going to set the top. Ooh, how do you know where? So Maria, this is such a good question. Hang on. Wow, terrible for a streamer, but I cannot think and type. So 50%. How do we get a feel for where that's actually going to land? And you're going to hate this answer, but I think the answer might be sort of experience. Well, 50% of the parent element would be right here, and wiggling. Uh, so a lot of it's going to be experimentation when you're using this out in production, out in the wild. Okay. So we're going to do these same things again where we say, I'm going to cheat. Y'all love it when I cheat. Second, third, fourth. So we've got 6 of these again. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete these values. Yeah, and I'm going to copy. Oh, heck, where have you gone? And I'm just going to copy this template. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Messy copying and pasting. 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And can you all be sweethearts and let me know what the values I should be putting in here are? Oh, you know what, lazy as I am, I'm just going to copy and paste these into a doc that I can see. Is there a doc that I can see while I'm doing this? Oh, I'm going to use the private chat that I use with Mervin as we go. Sorry, Mervin. Oh gosh, and if anybody wants to fuss over how lovely Merv and smart and cool Mervin is, he's hanging out in the back helping moderate. So the second one is set to 17% for right, and then 93.5. Oh gosh, we're moving this right on. The third cabin, 60s. And see, I think this is the question Maria asked here. It's like, well, how can I tell what percentage this should be? Oh, and these should be percentages, otherwise it's going to look very weird. And I think that in order to build this for the first time, the people behind Free Coca must have experimented a lot, because like 93.5, very specific, isn't it? The third cabin, 67, and then 93.5% again. Fourth cabin, 8.5 minus 8.5%. And then 50%. Almost done, I promise. The fifth cabin, where are we? Oh. I'm messing some of these up, aren't they? So second cabin, right property. Third cabin, right property. Fourth cabin is left. Fifth cabin should have a left, not right. Oh gosh. Where's this left property here for the fifth? 10 to 17%, very chill. And the top property to 7%, so we're only going to push that down 7%, just a teeny bit. And then the last one is going to have a right property to 17. There's 0% chance that I've got all these numbers right the first time, isn't it? Literally no way. No. Cool. So let's give that a shot. Now, let's animate. So, you don't know, I've already done this. No, you have to tell me what to do when you don't know what to do. Let's go ahead and start with me just giving you the MDN rule. And I want to explain my monstrous cruelty, if that's all right. One of the reasons that I try and encourage you all is that, oh, please go and get this from MDN, or can you search and tell me? Oftentimes I genuinely don't know. This is roughly how clever I am in the mornings, and it's not terribly impressive, is it? I'm happy with it. It works for me. But also because that practice of, oh no, because what's the feeling you get when you see a brand new technical concept or a brand new property that you're supposed to use? It's not going to be for all of you, but especially for beginners when you're first starting, oftentimes there's this little spike of cold terror where it's like, oh, I've not seen that before. Am I supposed to know how to do that? It's okay. It's okay. And really what I'm trying to encourage when I say, hey, can you go look up, is a little bit of confidence around, oh, I don't know what's going on. And having that little cold spike be a little bit smaller and a little bit warmer every time. Because these days, I'm not telling you to be more like me. Oof, your lives will be so stressful. But these days for myself, one thing that's gotten to be really nice is when I see something that I've never seen before, or much more commonly, when I see something that I've completely forgotten, it's that instead of, oh, I don't know what this is, I've got this little cold spike, it's, oh, cool, weird. I wonder what this is. I'll go get it. And it makes it a little bit safer and a little bit warmer. So keyframes. Yeah, let's talk about let me go get keyframes, because I think we want to look at this as we talk about it. The keyframes control the intermediate steps for CSS animations. And these are at rules. And we could go down this long rabbit hole. I love that expression of, oh, what's an at rule? Let's read about at rules. What are their at rules? Y'all can get weird on your own time. Here, at rules are something that exists. We click and learn more if we wanted to. Everything's fine. But here, we know that the syntax, we start with an at for an at rule, because we've seen this for media queries as well, haven't we? We get this vibe. Sometimes there's an at sign for a command. Let's chill. And let's look at this. So our syntax is at keyframes. Cool. And then we name it. Yeah. And then we're saying, here's where our animation is starting. And here's where our animation is finished. And we can have some multiple intermediate steps. Yeah. JavaScript can do stuff with keyframes if you're learning JavaScript as well. But we, at least right now, are not learning JavaScript. So keyframes is an at rule. Okay, we've just determined that's a thing. If we wanted to learn about it, we can click on it. If we have time, we might click on it. And this is going to go ahead and let us set what's going on at different points in our animation. So 0%, 25%. We've got to create a name. So the way we sort of speak this into existence is we say, at keyframes, yo, I want to do a keyframe thing. I want to be doing something with CSS animation that makes me want to use keyframes. And then we've got to name it. So I could explain this all day, making it more and more confusing. But let's go ahead and try it, because I think that's a much more fun way to make this more confusing. So here we've said at keyframes, hey, 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 CSS, I want to do a weird animation. I want to use keyframes, and I want to call it wheel. The name of my animation is wheel. Cool. We haven't done much, but what we have done is right. So now we need to define how our animation should start. So that's going to be a 0% rule. Okay, cool. So here, yeah. And from there, we're going to go ahead and set additional percentages for what's going on. So keyframes free Codecamp 12% color green means, hey, when I'm 12% of the way through this animation, change the color to green. So here we're going to set 0%. It hasn't told us to do anything with this. It just says, hey, I want you to set a 0% rule. And I know that nesting, you know what, I might ask you all, because I've been saying a bunch of weird names for all these braces. I think I usually call these curly babies, or curly braces if I'm at work. What do you all call these sort of wiggly braces, these wiggly parentheses? I'm not even sure what they're officially called. But I know it can be a little uncomfortable to nest these curly braces inside curly braces at first, but CSS loves to do that. We've got to get real comfortable with this. So breaking down what we've got so far, say, hey, we're starting a keyframes at rule. I want to call it wheel. And then inside here, I'm going to have some kind of rule. I'm going to do something at 0%. A fed, you know what? I bet they're actually called curly. Ooh, love this. That's beautiful. Wait, does that just mean curly? So that is green. You could have put any kind of thing there and I would have read it out loud. I'm so sorry that I don't speak any, well, I could have learned very, very reasonable human languages and I decided to go for ones that were very hard for me. So we're going to, oh no, don't be sorry that it's in Spanish. It's beautiful. So we're going to say, hey, where we start, the beginning for our animation is going to be started transform. Gee, look at you. You're so far ahead of me. I can't even keep up. I love it. I live for it. Oh, that's so focusing. Curlies. Am I pronouncing loves? Transform. Oh, we're going to set that to rotate. I'm not even sure if I'm doing this correctly. 0 degrees. Okay. So here, just to break this down, just because the animation is hard, what we're saying is, hey, we're starting an animation called keyframes. We're starting a keyframes. We're to call it wheel. And when we start this animation, I want to set the transform property to rotate not at all. Don't you do a thing when we start because we're starting. Yeah, that's fine. Just another heads up that, oh, heck, it's pretty cool to donate if you want to. So we've got a 0%. And really the only things we kind of need here are what happens at the end. And here, I even spelling transform in the morning. We're to set our rotate to 360 degrees. So I bet we're not going to see much. Because 0 to 360, is it even going to blink? I'm not seeing a dang thing. What are you doing? Ooh, we've got a, whew. Okay. This is a big block of animation. This is a big block of documentation. So I just wanted to take a breath and put it all in my brain at the same time. So we've spoken our key name. So we've said keyframes, wheel, and we've made that real. The problem right now is that we need to associate our keyframes with the properties. So we need to give our wheel selector, and you might say, Jess, come on. The animation's called wheel. and the class is called wheel, shouldn't it just know? No, 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 no. Because you can name classes any sort of manner of thing, and you don't want to have that conflict if you accidentally create an animation with the same name as your class. So you want to really specifically say, hey, cool, I've created this keyframes animation with this name. I want to associate it with you. Okay. So we're going to go and use this animation name property, which we've never seen before. So we could look it up, but I feel a little bit confident to say, you know what? We see a lot of things. I think we can guess and say the animation name property set to wheel for our wheel selector. Let's just guess on this syntax and see how that feels. Animation name. And this is where we're going to associate the animation name that we've set for our keyframes to the element that we want to change. I'm gently confident. I'm only ever gently confident. This feels like syntax that could very well work, even though we haven't played with it before. So we've got to set a couple different properties. So we've set the rules for what happens to this animation when it's at 0%. And we've set the rule for what happens to this animation at 100%. But right now, there's no duration. There's no time associated with this. So it's not going to do much because there's no dimension of time for it to happen in. Let's go ahead and add some time. And we use the animation duration property. Yeah. So in our wheel selector, we're going to set the animation duration property to 10 seconds. That's nice and slow for a web animation. And we've got a couple different units we can use here, but we can say seconds or milliseconds. Ooh. So either quite quick or somewhat slow. Let's set our animation duration. I'm not going to look this one up either. Oh, look at you. Do we think animation duration should be in the same? Yeah, a G. You're always ahead of the class. And even, oh, look at this. Look at this. It's moving. It's moving. And it should only move once. Right? Yeah, so it's done a whole 10 seconds, which is actually quite a long time for an animation, isn't it? But it's done it exactly once, because that's the default behavior. And now it's just chilling. I'm praising a G, and I do praise other folks for having the answer right away and knowing what's going on. But I very rarely have the answer, and I very rarely know what's going on. And it is completely fine to say, oh, this is the first time I'm looking at this, or oh, this is the second or third time, but it hasn't quite stuck yet. Remember how Barbara and Zach talked to us about learning and getting stuff fixed in your brain. So let's do a little bit more of this. We're coming really, really quickly through this. What's step 20? We may just finish this whole fool thing. Oh, should I be very, very mean and leave like the last one just out of evilness? We'll leave the very last one we'll see about leaving the very last one out of evilness. So we've talked about how, oh, and if Fedris points out, you're like, oh, it just feels like it slows down a little bit when it starts and ends. Ooh. We've talked about how the default behavior is it's going to only animate once. Let's go get a property that lets us set that. Ramon, are you just relentlessly friendly and relentlessly positive? We're going to use the animation iteration count. And an iteration is how many times you go through something. So when you talk about loops in JavaScript, and because Ramon just said something, I know he's right there. We do talk about iterating through loops, like how many times you go through it. Probably. We're going to use the animation iteration count. And you know what? Lazy as I am, I'm going to copy and paste that. We can either set that to a number. So I wanted to do it one time. And that's the default behavior anyway. I want to do it 10 times or infinite. I want you to go forever. And here, let's set it to it. And forever is a very big philosophical concept, isn't it? So now, it should just keep going. It's still a little bit clunky. Like you would get very sick in a Ferris wheel where the wheel spins. and the chairs don't. Ooh. I think this also wanted our animation timing function. And this is really useful. So a Ferris pointed out, oh, it feels like it's easing in and out when it starts and finishes. And this is some cool default behavior built in, and that's not necessarily what we want. So we're going to grab the animation timing function, which says how this animation progresses over time. And we're going to set this to linear and say, hey, don't ease in and out for me. I just want to go ahead and give people an easy ride on this real imaginary Ferris wheel. Oh, it was linear, wasn't it? And one of the things, yeah, Ramon makes a really good point. So when we talk about iteration, it's like this is just like a loop in JavaScript, isn't it? Like different syntax, but we're commanding a certain chunk of code to go more than once. So here we're saying, here's the code we're going to be running. It's the animation wheel that we've defined somewhere else. Here's how long I want you to take to go over this chunk of code to execute it. Here's how many times I want you to do it. I want you to do it forever. And here's how I want you to process that code, that animation. I want you to do it in a steady way. Yeah. And check our code. Everything's fine. So we've said that we're so close to done. We've pointed out that if you're in a cabin on a Ferris wheel where the Ferris wheel's spinning, you're going to wind up upside down at some points if your cabin doesn't spin as well. So we're going to do the exact same programming, because this is programming, isn't it? We're going to do the exact same programming of the animation, but we're going to do it for the cabin to make sure that nobody's being bonked on the head and nobody's getting sick. And we're going to do this with a little bit more confidence, aren't we? Cabins. You say, cool, we've created an animation called cabins. What do we have to remember to do with this name before it's going to do anything? So we're going to copy the 0% rule from wheel. We're going to copy the 100% rule. It's a transform property. Okay, so 0% is going to be transform rotate 0. I'm not even, look at that. Rotate 0. Is that what we had? Yep, transform rotate 0. And here, instead of transform rotate 360 degrees, minus, so it's going to go in the other direction, isn't it? Transform rotate minus. Oh, let's get those degrees in there. I think it'll work anyway, but we want to do it right. 360 degrees. Oh, I'm seeing the cabins wiggle. I mean, we just see them wiggle once because we know we've got to come into the cabin and we've got to, look at these. So we're going to do the same thing we did last time. And we can put this anywhere in here. We could put it at the top so it's easier to see everything. So animation. Go a little bit faster because we've just did this and we're feeling really confident today, aren't we? It's the last lesson, like proper lesson. Tomorrow we're going to talk about our project. It's the last lesson of the course. We're feeling really confident. We're just going to go ahead and do these. I'm going to associate the animation of cabin with you. Cool. And now we've got the animation. Oh, heck. What was it? The animation duration? Oh, look at this. I was very cheerfully, we're going to type these out. We can just use a shorthand to set all of these within the animation property. Instead of saying animation name, animation duration, we can just say animation cabins. Is cabins? Is it cabins? Is it? Do we say cabins? Oh, we did say cabins. So the animation cabins. We're going to set that to 10 seconds again. Okay, so the timing's... Oh, look, 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 look. Okay, okay. This is a little choppy. And here we could say linear. We're going to set that property right in here as well. And we're going to set this to infinite. As a deeply lazy person, I love when CSS gives us a way to do this shorthand instead of saying animation name, animation duration, animation timing function, animation duration. We could just say animation and specify all of these in the same command. They've got to be in this order. You say, how will I ever remember them? I say, it's all right. We can look them up when we forget. We could ask a friend if we forget. And we'll probably get an error message if we put them in the wrong order. That's all super chill. Is this the last one? Is this the last one? This is the last one. Oh, so the ease in or out function. And I think this is going to feel a little bit like the default behavior. But here we've got linear. And I say, well, linear feels a little choppy on the cabins, like a linear motion on the wheel. Heck yes, keep that wheel moving at the same speed. But here we want to ease in and out of the animation for a cabin selector. Okay, so instead of linear, I'm going to change you to ease in and out. Okay, I like that. So now it comes around the curve nice and slow, speeds up. Yeah, this feels really good. You know, I think this might be the very... So we could do more than just a transformation. I was sure. We have 28 steps maybe then, is it? Can somebody remind me? We can also change the colors. So we've got our background color. Let's start yellow. Look at this, look at this, look at this. It's just automatically doing the color transformation from yellow to red. Oh, I mean, it does flash back a bit quickly, doesn't it? Let's add a 50%. Yeah, let's do something in the middle because we've talked about how keyframes have these percentage milestones. Let's add another one. Yellow. Wait, what have I done wrong here? Oh. There we go. I know this is very, very rude. Excuse me for just 1 second. I've got an emergency, someone at the door. Hang on, I'm so sorry. Oh, sorry about that. My poor neighbor had locked out herself and her cute child. Of course, I would have given them a spare key even if the child... I was going to say even if the child wasn't cute. I mean, which children are not precious and adorable? So, the absolute tension at which I was like, well, we're almost finished. We never finished something together. Obviously, I will walk away from you. How cruel. So because this animation is on an infinite loop, the start and end colors are rough, right? We're going purple, coming into the red, and then that flash into the back into the yellow is too much, too much. So we're going to take the background color out of here. Okay. So we don't start at 0. We don't reset that color anymore. Okay, and now we're going to create a new 25%. So we're going to give ourselves those interim color changes. And this means that we're not snapping back to 0, and that should keep things from feeling too rough. My apologies again for just walking away from all of you. That's very, very rude of me. Where's my closing brace? 25%. And let's put our background color of yellow here. Oh, I've broken something. Okay, this is letting the test pass, but I've obviously got a stray. I've got an extra curly brace here. You know, if it's not gonna yell at me for that extra curly brace, I'm gonna take it. So let's create a 75% selector between the 50 and 100% and set the background color to yellow again. What I'm gonna do this time is I'm not gonna screw this up. You say, Jess, are you really not gonna screw this up? I say, maybe. Right? Always messy with the brackets. Let's see if I can keep from getting messy with. So. This is the last step. Are we almost done? Are we almost done? Okay, I haven't messed up my brackets this time. We're gonna set our background color. Oh heck. Yellow again. So now we're gonna cycle in and out of yellow, I think. Yellow, into this purple, back into yellow, into. This looks good, right? Right? Gonna check our code. What does it say when we're done? We are done. I'm so sorry to get overly familiar with you all. Oh, my loves, we are completely, utterly, joyously done with that whole section. And CSS animation is really, really challenging. I'm not going to say for everyone. For me, I find CS right. What an absolute wave of dopamine response. So when we talked to Parb and Zach, we talked a little bit about sort of the neurochemistry of how our brains learn and what they do. Cool. But what we didn't really talk about, and I love to talk about, is do you all know that your brains, ooh, hopefully my brain too, are set up with a really intricate reward system. Let me see if I can find an article. So when you learn something, or when you complete something, or when you do something, ooh, you know what? The best article I can find is an academic article, and that's probably um, not as helpful. So dopamine, we have some chemicals in our brain that we love. And I should add, I am not a doctor, I'm not a neuroscientist. So I'm just a fan of brain chemicals. So we've got brain chemicals that give us good feelings. And one of those that I think is especially exciting around learning is dopamine. So when you do the thing, and this is why I love Ramon's pat. Well, I mean, everyone does. It's charming. When you finish something, your brain gives you some dopamine to say, wow, good job. Have this brain chemical that makes you feel good. And one thing, I don't think it was very calculated. Ramon is just so nice. With the pat is such a nice way to reinforce. Oh, I've just gotten that brain chemical, this dopamine. Or, you know what? I finished this, but the dopamine hasn't hit me yet. Let's reinforce this with a physical pat, which is something Ramon does, which is so nice. Oh, it's amazing. So we finished this. Hopefully you all got this little rush of wonderful with the brain chemical hitting you. And now what we're going to do is we're going to have some laid back question and answer. I'm going to encourage you to spend some time, if you feel like it and if you have the time, experimenting with CSS animation. I personally believe that CSS, for me, CSS animation is the hardest part of CSS, but it's also super, super good and weird. Oh, Atraf is saying you're happy and sad because you don't want the boot camp to end. The Discord's gonna stay open, the forum's gonna stay open. We're not going anywhere anyplace fast. Everything's open. The world is big and scary and weird, but everything's okay. So we've got class tomorrow where we're going to be talking about building your personal portfolio webpage. And then Thursday, sort of later in the afternoon, around the same time that Ramon usually finishes, we're going to have a guest from the W3C come. And yeah, so if anybody has any questions, go ahead and ask. We've got a question from Cabby asking, wait, when does the boot camp end? So this week, we're going to be wrapping up this week. And there's no obligation to be done with your assignments. You don't have to have finished your lessons. You don't have to finish your projects by then. But it just means the live sessions we're adding are going to go ahead and end. I'm going to be doing a little bit more live streaming just to goof around and just for fun on my own time. But one thing, and Ramon, I know you're right here. I hope I'm not speaking for you. Myself and the team are going to take a week or two off. No planning, no just chilling. And then we're going to come back and start planning for the next boot camp. So we're not going to leave you alone forever, but we are going to go ahead and take a little bit of a break before coming back. And I'd encourage y'all to do the same. Yeah, you do so much. I think it's very likely you're not giving yourselves enough credit for how hard all this is. Yeah. Carlos, if you want to still have breakfast with me, I think I'll probably keep streaming in the mornings, but just as me, not as Class Central. And it'll be a lot less rational and a lot less good without my brilliant colleague behind the scenes. Really, the only thing that keeps me looking even marginally clever is Mervyn. Oh gosh, Fedris is asking, what's the deal with the guest speaker? So we're going to be talking to Lola Odiola, who's got the most beautiful name in technology, but is also doing a lot of outreach work for the W3C. That's going to be at 4 p.m. UTC, but we'll go ahead and get that into the get that sort of loaded into the portal so that's visible to you all. That's really my fault for not getting that up. Fabulous. If we don't have any other questions, I might go ahead and let you go to grab a coffee. You all have been absolutely delightful. What an absolute dopamine rush to finish something. Yeah, I'm going to let you. Oh, don't think y'all don't have homework just because we finished this together. Your homework is try and get caught up if you're a little bit behind. This is a nice opportunity to say, oh, cool. This is a bit of a shorter session. I can go back and fill in some stuff if I had some stuff to catch up on. Try and finish this lesson we've done together. Yeah. On your own. And then just take a look at your personal portfolio webpage project. You don't have to start. You can if you're super keen. We'll look at it tomorrow. And I think out of all of our projects, this is going to be the one you use the most. So when when you start looking for work, how exciting, how scary. Yeah. Ooh. With the penguin, we gotta go. What does transform, rotate 130 degrees, scale X do to the penguin's arm? Does it make it wave this way? What what step is that from? Looking at this code, I think what that would do to somebody's arm is make it rotate anti-clockwise. So is that no, it's still clockwise. So 130 degrees. Scale X. Does it make the penguin wave, Maria? I'm sorry to answer a question with a question, but like looking at this code and recalling that lesson, I'm reasonably sure that that's going to make your penguin wave. If somebody else remembers, oh, but why do we need the scale? Let's look at this. Yeah. Let's go and get it. Let's go and get it. Yeah. What do we need with this scale? So, and it's not just scale, but it's scale X. So we've got our syntax. Let's come and find Show me the values. Show me scale. Scale X. that should change the scale along the x-axis. It should keep the penguin from looking too stretched out or deformed. It does scale, it should reduce the size along the x-axis. But I'm looking for some documentation on scale and it's not giving it to me. How disappointing. There we are. So it's going to resize an element along the x-axis. Yeah. And the description, it says retain the scaling of, yeah. So this is saying, hey, and the way I'd probably work out the scale along the x-axis myself is I'd probably try it. And if it looked weird, I'd say, oh, we need to change the scale on the x-axis. But what I was looking for is this function that talks about scale x. Woof, we've got some math or maths. And this is saying, hey, woof, woof. I was hoping this would be more relaxing. This is not more relaxing. This is saying this x-axis, we want to deform it slightly. Scale is sort of, we want to change the scale. We want to squish or stretch it a little bit. And here we're squishing or stretching that because we found that we assume that when the people putting this together changed the penguin, made the penguin wave, that maybe its left arm looked weird. Yeah. I was all like, oh, let's go get the documentation for Scale X and it will definitely explain more of this and it will definitely chill us out. And as somebody who has math terror or maths terror, this did not chill me out. So we've done this because when we made it wave, it sort of, we assume it made the left arm look weird. We added that -1 on the scaling to fix it. But like, yeah, look at this. If somebody's better at this than me, please let me know because this gives me the terror. You know, we could just step away from this and pretend that I never looked that up. Yeah. So Scale X is, oh, cool. I assume what happened is they tried this. They noticed, oh, when it waves, we've got a little bit of deformation. How can we change the scale? And it could just be that they started with -5 or +5. So, well, that's the wrong direction. Let's try this and let's try that. I'm so sorry that I do have deep and unshaking terror around geometry. And as much as I love you all, I refuse to get better. Well, yeah. And with that absolutely terrible example of your teacher saying, no, this freaks me out and I refuse to get better. I'm going to go, well, Alf Doodle saying, well, ignore that it's geometry and pretend it's just numbers. I'd be like, no, that's the part that gives me the terror. What a good example that you do not have to be fantastic at math or maths to cheerfully work in technology. Actually, if it's not boring all of you, I want to fess up to something I did with computers that absolutely made me want to scream and shout. We've got someone saying they didn't get your certificate from a previous bootcamp. I'm so sorry. So if you go through you're going to go into the regular curriculum, they should have the process to do that within the free Codecamp UI. So if you go and check, there should be sort of a checklist in there and make sure that you've submitted all your projects in there. And it should give you an option to claim your certificate with a button at the bottom. Yeah, sorry about that. But I want to talk to you briefly about the idea that you should know stuff or you should be better at stuff. One thing that I think is incredibly humbling with computers is setting up a printer or using a printer. And now that you all are developers, folks in your family, oh, of course you could set this. I've known a very dear friend of mine who's been working in tech since almost before I was born. Was talking to me about printers yesterday, who was saying, oh no, printers are terrible. I've been an engineer for decades and I hate it. I fight with printers. And for me, I had to set up a new network yesterday and did spend several hours, not quite sobbing, but really considering it. There's this idea that, oh, once I know enough, everything will be easy. It's not the way the world works. Some things, like networks or printers or CSS animations, are almost always hard for almost always all of us. And with that, depressing, hopefully reassuring that just because a printer is hard, or just because CSS animation is hard, or just because you have maybe a terror of geometry, doesn't mean that you're doing something wrong. I'm going to let you go. I hope you have the easiest possible morning or afternoon. And don't forget your homework is, as always, to be as gentle to yourselves as possible. Bye, everyone.